And for those that don't know you, this is Elizabeth Ducie. I'm delighted to introduce you to people who aren't familiar with your work. Elizabeth's been a member of our Devon Book Club network virtually since day one, I think, and has been a very active participant. So it's great to celebrate with you, Elizabeth, when the time's come for the next of your own novels to be being published. And that's why we're talking today. I mean, you've published about 15 titles, I think, but this is your fourth novel, which is Corruption, which we're going to be talking about in just a moment. So you've got quite a long canon now, haven't you?
I have, yes. I write both novels and non-fiction. But as you say, this is my fourth novel and the third in a series of thrillers.
Indeed. So let's get straight to it and talk about Corruption. You're holding it up. Your trademark geographic map of the world with the syringe in there in the hand, which rather gives a clue to the content of the book. So do you want to tell us all about Corruption and the series it's the third in?
Okay. Well, as you say, it's the third in a series. I call them thrillers set in the sometimes murky world of international pharmaceuticals, and I use the word sometimes as a sop to my colleagues who object to me calling the international pharmaceutical industry murky. It's a series of thrillers. It's based, all of them have drug themes, as you would expect, from the logo. This one is the end of the series. Each of the books is a standalone. It has a standalone story in it, but there is also an overarching theme. One story that's gone from the beginning right through, and it finishes at the end of this one. The series feature 3 strong female characters. I've called it the Suzanne Jones series because Suzanne was the main character in the first book, but she's joined by Charlie, who is her sister, and Francine Matheson, who is a friend of theirs. I got the idea to a certain extent from the James Patterson Women's Murder Club series of books. I love the idea of strong female protagonists. That's what I wanted to use in the books, and that's what I've got. This one is set in Russia and Ukraine. This is the map of Russia on the front of the book. It's to do with a new drug craze which is sweeping across the region, and it is a real drug. It's called crocodile. It's a very unpleasant homemade drug, which makes it reasonably cheap, cheaper than heroin and other similar drugs, because it's made from a cheap over-the-counter medicine and a combination of household chemicals. And so the kids are using that because it's a lot cheaper than buying the drugs on the street. But it is fatal in usually 18 months to 2 years rather than a much longer period as you have with some other drugs. And it's extremely nasty. Even before the kids die, the flesh starts rotting. It's called crocodile because they end up looking like crocodile skin, and there's a lot of corruption of the flesh before it becomes fatal. So the 3 protagonists head off to Russia and Ukraine to try and help slow down the spread.
Well, it does sound like a really horrible drug. I mean, all drugs bring their risks, but that sounds particularly unpleasant. And I think I've heard you say before, I mean, in a sense, the title of the book's Corruption, and obviously that's about the corruption around the industry, but also corruption of the flesh.
That's right, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really horrible. Okay, so you mentioned the three female protagonists, and they've been featured in each of the 3 in the trilogy, haven't they? So you want to just show us the covers of the other 2 as well?
Yeah, I've got Counterfeit, which is set in Southern Africa, and that's the first in the series, and that's really Suzanne's novel. The other 2 characters are in it, but Suzanne is the main one in there.
Yeah.
Deception, which is the second in the series, which is set in Latin America. That's again, all 3 are in there, but that's Charlie's story. And then Corruption, which is coming out this month, is Francine's story. Although all three of them are in all three.
Yeah, and there's obviously a degree of inside knowledge on all of this because you worked a long time in the pharmaceutical industry right across the world, didn't you?
That's right. Yes, I was working in pharma for more than 30 years, and a lot of it was spent in the former Soviet Union region. I worked in Russia, Ukraine, Armenia, Georgia, Kazakhstan, and Kabardino-Balkaria. So,
Yeah, I read somewhere that you made more than 100 visits to the country. So clearly
right,
you know it very well, and you've seen it going through a lot of change, I think.
I have, absolutely, yes. The first few years, I first went out in '93, and the Soviet Union collapsed in back end of '91. And I saw over the first few years things got better, and life started getting easier. And then in '98 we had the ruble crash, and everything went back a bit. And then political changes and that. It just, to me, it improved, and then it started going downhill again.
Yeah.
I worked out there on and off until about 2007, 2008. And I found towards the end I was being careful about what I said. And I hadn't done that since I first went out there. So there was definitely a change. But I love the country. I love the region. And that's why a lot of my books are set in that part of the world.
Yeah, well, certainly a fascinating part of the world. And coming back to Corruption, the novel, Suzanne Jones, the other two women, I mean, what are their roles then? How do they come to feature in these books? Are they part of the industry themselves? Are they detectives? What are they?
Well, Suzanne is a regulator. She started off with the national. Well, she started off in industry, and then she worked with the national regulators, the people license the factories and say that yes, it's safe for these drugs to go out onto the market. She then went into an international regulatory organisation, but by the time we get to Corruption, she's now running her own consultancy. I am definitely not Suzanne Jones, but there are some similarities in her career and mine. Charlie has an interesting background, which we only gradually hear about as we go through the series. On the face of it, she's a bit of a layabout, but who's always getting herself into trouble. But she's a computer whiz, and she actually has a much more responsible background than we're first led to believe. Francine Matheson is a government minister.
Okay, so I imagine that inside the book, I'm guessing here, but you can tell me if I'm wrong. I mean, there's a mixture of government corruption, a mixture of industry corruption, and maybe mafia and those kind of influences around. I mean, I can imagine it all being a bit of a whirlwind book and lots of dynamics going on there.
Yeah, there's that's pretty much summed it up. Yes, you've got government corruption, you've got industrial corruption, and you've got sort of organised crime. So yeah, and because my husband asked me to, we've also got car chases and explosions.
Ah, excellent! You've got to have a car chase and explosion in there somewhere.
Yes.
So this sounds like a page turner. I mean, I certainly read Counterfeit. I have the Deception on my Kindle ready to read ahead of the launch later on this month. And we ought to finish just on that note, I think, because your launch is scheduled for the 24th of this month, I believe.
24th of the month, yes. And between now and the 23rd, the first two books are on sale. They're 99 pence or 99 cents or an equivalent amount in other countries. And then that's up to the 23rd. The new one comes out on the 24th, and that will be at the same price for the first couple of days, and then after that it will all go up to the full price.
To the normal price.
I have a blog tour starting on the 26th of September, so there will be a fair amount of noise on the internet, shall we say.
Yeah, well, fantastic. Well, keep us advised as it gets nearer that time and as things are happening. We'll post this, and I'll include with the video links to your various pages and so on, so people can check it out and find the book and so on. And just finish then on thanking you for giving a bit of time this morning, and congratulations on the latest in the series. I'd be interested to hear what the next project is now this one's finishing in due course.
Yeah, I'll tell you about that next time we talk.
Another time. All right, Elizabeth. Have a good day. Bye for now.
Thanks, Ian. Bye.